Welcome to the Dan Casper Show podcast, your chance to catch the full show anytime, anywhere. If you missed it live on the radio, no worries. We've got you covered with all the sports talk, opinions, interviews, and conversations from the show. From the Packers to the Brewers to the biggest stories in sports and around Wisconsin, it's all right here. This is the Dan Casper Show podcast. All right, second hour kicking off right now on this Wednesday morning. Thanks for hanging out with us as we are making the turn on this week already. We got Surveyor Sam chiming in already, saying good morning, DK, and everyone listening. I have to say, seeing the news flash across your ear holes or come across whatever. Yesterday afternoon was a gut punch. But we all must allow this to play out in a court of law. Too many people in today's day and age instantly jump to either guilty or innocent within the first 5 minutes of hearing only one side of the story. We must remember, you are innocent until proven guilty, as lawyers even said there is crucial evidence that has yet to be made public. I just hope this is taken very seriously and the court process plays out fairly. Also, you better include the real American legend, Rulon Gardner, in that 250 list, and the Flying Tomato, Shaun White. So, all right. Thank you for the names. I can't reveal if I had them on or not because that would kind of ruin it. But, I mean, there's the obvious ones. I mean, Michael Jordan and such is on there. So, but, yeah. Keep them coming. Games, coaches, players, moments, teams, anything. It's 250. Okay? I've got my list, but I'm going to need your help too. And go back to 1776 all the way up to 2026. There's plenty of stuff to fill in for 250 sports moments. But keep those coming. So you can email it to me. If you text it to me, I can't guarantee them. How about this? If you include some nominations, I will include you in those countdown segments when we do it. All right? Countdown segments. So it's 250 for 250 for like the nation, for America, Team USA, Team America. We're talking like the big ones out there. When you think about the history of American sports, that's what we're kind of looking at. When you're looking at the history of American sports, what are some of if your top 250 moments? So, all right. We'll get back to some more Packers talk, obviously, with the Josh Jacobs situation. Yeah, but I well said, Surveyor, too. I think that's well said from you. We're going to hear from Matt LaFleur in a few hours. Guarantee he's going to be asked about that a lot. Can also guarantee he's not going to answer really anything in detail. But players are also going to be available to the media today at OTAs. And I don't know which players are going to talk or which players are going to be available, but they're also going to be talking about that, too. So, yeah, there's a lot to kind of digest. I don't want to maybe necessarily go into a whole who should they pick up from a free agent thing yet. Let's just pump the brakes on that at this point in time. So, Brewers, though, back at it today, 12:40 first pitch. Looking for the sweep against the Redbirds of the St. Louis Cardinals. One of my am I wrongs is, am I wrong? Well, actually, two of them were related to the Brewers, but am I wrong? Kyle Harrison's season is being overshadowed because of what Jacob Misiorowski is doing and maybe not getting as much national attention as it probably should. That's what I believe, but that's not a knock on Misiorowski because Misiorowski 100% deserves all the attention, all the praise that is coming with it. There's no debate about it. There's no question about it. And maybe Kyle Harrison kind of benefits from just kind of being, dare I say, second fiddle to the Miz kid. But you look at the month of May between these two guys, they are practically unhittable, or you're not going to be able to score on them at all in the month of May. Kyle Harrison, 5 games, 4-0, .96 ERA. Jacob Misiorowski, 5 games, 4-0, .29 ERA. Misiorowski has allowed 1 run in the month of May. Kyle Harrison has allowed 3, but in his last 3 starts, he has allowed 0. 0 earned runs. These two, the dynamic duo, are going to be so fun to watch for years and years to come for this Brewer squad. It is to the point, for me, right now, it is to the point that when it's these two guys, their turn in the rotation, I'm feeling good about those 2 games that we're going to come away with a W. I don't care who's on the other mound. I don't care who they're going up against. Because you look at it, these two, they've gone up against these are the last 4 games, the opponents that they've gone up against. Yankees, Padres, Cubs, Cardinals. Playoff teams. Playoff caliber teams. They've gone out there and have pitched awesome games. Put their team in a position to win, in a lot of instances, have won those games. Outside of the Miz one, that wasn't his fault by any means against the Padres. But when it's those 2 guys, like when we know it's Miz and Harrison weekend or Miz and Harrison back-to-back day, uber confident that we're going to come away with dubs. And you bet your bottom dollar that team, the position players, everybody else, the defense behind those guys, when they know the Miz is starting or Kyle Harrison is starting, they also are probably pretty confident, hey, this guy is going to put us in a position to win this game. We have to do our job. If we do our job, we're going to get this thing done. Those 2 guys, they're going to do their job. More times than not, I mean, yes, there's going to be hiccups, but you can't, we can't forecast that. We don't know when it's going to happen. But when those 2 guys are on the mound, I guarantee you, the defense behind those guys, that batting lineup, that order, the rest of the squad, they're feeling really good about their chances to win. And they come in with the mindset, as long as we do our part, we're going to win this thing. We don't have to worry about our pitcher. He's got this. Guy's a stud. We just got to do our part. To have that confidence, to have that mindset, I love the fact that Misiorowski and Harrison are the duo leading this ball club. They're so fun to watch. Just another spectacular, solid outing. And the thing is, you hear Pat Murphy and such after the game, Harrison didn't really have his stuff last night. And he only had 2 Ks. But if that's a down performance, going 6 innings, 4 hits, not issuing a walk, a lot of pitchers would take that, and that would be like a fantastic start for them. So the Brewers, again, it'll probably be a bullpen day today, because if you go on and you're trying to see the pitching matchup and such, it's TBD for the Brew Crew, which Coleman Crow is going to be called up, but Pat Murphy says he's going to get the starts on Friday. Brewers have the off day tomorrow. So, yeah, it's going to be a bullpen day. And if there's a team that has the bullpen that can really go out there and have a bullpen day, it's the Crew. They've got options. On the flip side, Dustin May is going to get the start for the Cardinals. Now, Dustin May, in 10 games this year, he is 3-5 with a 5.0 ERA. And you look at what he has done lately, and you talk about Harrison and Misiorowski having really good months of May. Dustin May has not had a very good month of May, pun intended. 4 games, 0-3, 4.63 ERA. He is coming off of a loss against Pittsburgh back on the 21st, where he went 5 1/3, 4 earned runs. Kansas City, a no decision, 6 innings, 3 earned runs. Padres back in the 9th, a loss, couple earned runs. Dodgers back on May 3rd, 6 innings, 3 earned runs. So, yeah, I mean, quality opponents for sure. Experience-wise, Orlando Heath, though, is the only one that has 4 career at-bats against him, and he's 500 with a perfect 1.000 OPS. But that's because, I mean, you look at, he was with Boston for a hot minute last year. May spent some time with the Dodgers in the beginning portion of his career, first few years of his career, but last year was with Boston, was just 1-4 with a 5.40 ERA with Boston last year. With the Dodgers last year, he was 6-7 with a 4.85 ERA. But kind of, yeah, I mean, the fact that he did spend some time with the Dodgers and such, and to not see really a lot of experience going up against the Brewers lineup and such. So, but again, 12:40 first pitch. Coverage will begin at 12:05. I would expect probably, if we look at guys who pitched yesterday for the Crew, that we're probably going to see a good dose of Aaron Ashby, maybe Chad Patrick, DL Hall, Shane Drowan. None of those guys pitched yesterday. It was just Anderson, Uribe, and McGill. So you got guys that can give you some length coming out of the pen for sure. All right, let's take a quick break. Plenty more to get to here on this Wednesday morning. We'll be right back after these few words. When it comes to quality meats in Eau Claire, there's one name that locals trust, and that is Mike's Star Market. From hand-cut steaks and fresh ground beef to homemade brats and specialty items, everything is prepared with care and packed with flavor. Planning a cookout or filling the freezer or just looking for something better for dinner tonight, Mike's Star Market has you covered. Stop on in today and taste the difference. Mike's Star Market, your hometown butcher shop, right here in Eau Claire. All right, we'll get back to some more Brewers chat coming up here in a little bit as we get set for Game 3 of this series with the Cardinals, with first pitch at 12:40. Again, coverage will begin at 12:05 on the radio dials of 105.1 FM and 790 AM. And just really quick, too, to help us, I want to give a shout-out to our Brewers partners out there that help us give you the Brewers games all season long. That's Whispering Pines Golf. That's Union Trailer Sales and Service, Red Oak Exteriors, Game Day Men's Health, Ho Chunk Gaming Nakusa, Service Master. Shout out Clay. Congrats, Clay, by the way, for your son graduating high school. SCS Swiderski, Steel Town, the Real Estate Institute, Metalcraft Riverside, and Advanced Concrete. Hans, with those commercials that you hear all the time, raise it, don't replace it. So big thanks to all of our Brewers partners for helping us bring you the Brewers games all season long. Let's talk some more football with Mr. Joe DeGuano. Its OTAs began yesterday, and didn't have it on my bingo card to be talking about Josh Jacobs, saying in that situation. And obviously we want to let the whole thing play out and that. And it's an awful situation and such. But, from a pure football standpoint, just assuming if he does miss any games, it's a huge hit to this team.
Oh, no question. And again, that's you said it best. It's a horrible situation, and it needs to play out. And I guess the football side almost takes a back seat when you get into a situation like this. But the minimum for a situation like this, if Josh Jacobs remains a Green Bay Packer, which remains to be seen, and if he remains a Green Bay Packer, he's looking at in a minimum of 6 games. If you look at history, and that was the one position where Green Bay did not have a plan B. And so, I think this thing needs to play out in the courts. It needs to play out. And again, I feel for everyone in a situation like this. And I had a unique perspective back in the day of when former Packer Ahman Green went through something like this. And Ahman and I had become friends at the time. And matter of fact, he and I had been talking about working him into kind of a statewide radio type of thing. And the news broke, and I called him right away, and he told me his side. And his side, of course, was very different than the side that was reported in the news. And I could actually, in my mind, envision how it could have played out the way he said it did. Now, again, we need to hear the whole story, but I'll tell you, when I compare and contrast the Green situation to this situation, there are a lot of differences. And one of the differences is the magnitude of charges with Josh Jacobs is much more severe than it was with Ahman Green back in the day. And when you look at the strangulation charge, that's a felony. The others are misdemeanors. And again, you've got 5 charges pending against Josh Jacobs. And going back to it when I said, it remains to be seen if he's a Green Bay Packer, there's no more guaranteed dollars owed to Josh Jacobs. I think Green Bay, this is a fine line. Green Bay has to straddle this fine line where they don't want to be hypocritical. They want to make sure that due process is played out. However, you also have a football team to look after. And then when I say this, you've got to let due process play out. But if there's enough evidence that says that any of the charges are Josh Jacobs' fault, I think you have to move on. And again, at that point, Goody's got to go to work and figure out what he needs to do. And I'm sure at that point you're looking at free agents, you're looking at making a trade, you're looking at doing whatever, because there's no question. You and I have had the conversation. And again, I want to say this. The football part takes backseat. It absolutely takes backseat to this. But you and I have said all offseason that Gutekunst has been building this team and planning this offseason because he feels this team is a Super Bowl contender. And so, if that is the case, which I think we all feel that is the case, and Green Bay does move on from Josh Jacobs, and again, I'll say it again, if he's guilty on any of the charges, I think you move on from him. I absolutely 100% think you have to move on from him. But that being the case, again, the football side of things, if I'm Brian Gutekunst, I'm saying, all right, let's make a deal. And because you can't, this offense runs with play action. This offense moves with play action. This offense counts on play action to make this thing work. And with Chris Brooks or maybe Marshawn Lloyd, now again, if Marshawn Lloyd had been healthy the last couple of years and flashed what we think we can see, I'd be, all right, let's move on. Let's ride, to quote Russell Wilson. But I don't see that. I don't see that at all. But again, I want to, when the news hit yesterday, it was a gut punch, and you feel for everyone in a situation like this. And I had a long talk with my wife last night. Again, we don't know the situation, but my wife said this. She knows, obviously I've got sons and we've got a blended family, but she said, look, if I was a mom of a professional athlete, male professional athlete, I would tell my son never to put yourself in a situation where it's a he said, she said. Never put yourself in that type of a situation where you're alone with a woman. She referenced, Keanu Reeves. And apparently Keanu Reeves, every time he's in a photo with a woman, his hands are up.
That's right.
And so she referenced that. And she just said, you just can't put yourself in a situation where it really, truly becomes a he said, she said. And again, if Josh Jacobs did what he is reportedly or had done, there's no place for that. There's absolutely zero place putting your hands on a woman. And again, if there's any ounce of guilt, cut him.
No, I would totally agree with that. And, again, from a football perspective, we were talking about this at the draft with the depth at that position. And now it gets really. One thing, Marshawn Lloyd should have fresh legs since he's
right.
Not really
One
playing.
would hope.
But that's such a huge, big question mark and a huge unknown. You look at it, it's Lloyd, it's Chris Brooks right now, and
then some undrafted free agents.
Yeah, and that doesn't bode confidence-wise in myself, and now, Manuel Wilson is with Seattle, so it's not like they can bring him back at this point. And I know people are throwing out trade scenarios for like an Alvin Kamara and that, but then you got a huge contract that you're taking on in that. So, there's a lot of dominoes to fall in this place. But, for a team that is in a win-now mode to have one of your best players going through this.
You're captain of your team last year.
Yeah.
Captain of your team last year.
Yeah, it's just, and the one thing, too, is now his teammates got to answer all the questions about it, which they're going to today. Matt LaFleur is going to be up there. He's not going to – anybody hoping to hear anything, you're not going to hear anything. And, it's just they're going to – I can tell you right now, they're going to say we're going to let it play out, let the legal process play out. And that's what you have to say at that point if you're Matt LaFleur. And you that's what you say. But, gosh, what a big hit for a team that's coming in with a lot of excitement for this year.
Yeah, again, going back on the field, there's no question. If you would have said, what is the one player? Look, you're going to be without Micah Parsons for the beginning of the season. You're going to be you may be without Tucker Kraft for a little bit of that start of the season. So you say to yourself, okay, who's the next outside of Jordan Love? Who is the absolute guy that you can't lose? And really, it was Josh Jacobs. And again, the way that this has come down, and the more the story comes out, the more ugly it sounds. And again, I just in my gut, I think that Green Bay moves on, and I think that's the right move. And I think then Goody gets into football mode, and he's got it. The timing, and I hate to say this way, the timing actually works in Green Bay's favor. You've got the June 1 cuts. You've got June 1 salary relief. So you can go out and swing a deal because Nate Hobbs comes off in a couple of days. So you're going to gain some cap there. You're going to gain some cap if you do move on from Josh Jacobs. He's got some dead money, but the cap hit, or the cap savings, I should say, outweighs that dead cap hit. And so you're going to have the flexibility to make a move. And again, it's May 27th. This wasn't August 27th. And so from a Packer standpoint, you've got time to make a significant move. And so all is not lost. But from a human standpoint, this just, it's horrible. And I don't care, again, what happened. If there is any truth to the allegations, Josh Jacobs not only should be cut, but he should be serving prison time. I feel very strongly about that. And again, Dan, one of the things that's frustrating is you just hear this more often.
Yeah.
Than you should. And my wife and I talked about Ray Rice, right?
Yep. That was it.
Yeah, my wife and I talked about Ray Rice and that situation because we talked about the elevator video and even in that one, was she what was there fighting on both sides? Yes, if you go back to that video, no question. But Ray Rice is a man. And again, you can't do that, and that is so wrong. And again, where there's smoke, there's fire. And I know Jacob's lawyers are saying all the right things, that he denies everything. Well, I'm going to tell you, it's going to be. I just don't see with 5 charges that all of it is false. He's guilty for something. There's no question. What severity? What was the whole story behind it? But at some point, he did something to her. There's just no question of that. And so again, it's just it's ugly. It's the sad side of sports because we do hear it a lot. And again, I'm the zero tolerance policy when it comes to this kind of thing. But going back to that football side, there is time to make a move, and Green Bay has the wherewithal to do so.
If we kind of look at it from a free agent standpoint, there's names that are still out there. However, it's still May 27th, and they're free agents for a reason, and a lot of them are coming off of major injuries or age, whether it's an Achilles like Najee Harris and Austin Eckler, knees like Joe Mixon, and Nick Chubb's out there, but he had that gruesome one from a couple of years ago and such. So, I mean, they're named. It's giving me Cedric Benson vibes when we kind of, tried to bring in a veteran running back.
I go back even further. Reggie Cobb, when Green Bay went that route. And so, look, and it might be where they go a couple of different avenues, where they might go out and pick up one of those names, but still try to make a move via trade. And again, there's time to make this thing work. You don't want to say, well, the season's lost on May 27th. You don't win a Super Bowl in May. You don't lose a Super Bowl in May, is my opinion. But you look at it, and I do think, I think that whatever happens on the football side with Josh Jacobs, I think it happens quickly.
Yeah.
I don't see this dragging on. I see if Green Bay, if there is an ounce of suspicion that they move on. And he put himself there. People say, that he was the heart and soul and all these types of things. I'm sorry, but there's that Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde side of football and of football players. And I just think for Green Bay to still have Super Bowl aspirations, the longer this thing lingers, the longer Josh Jacobs is a question mark on this football team, I think that hurts Green Bay's chances. And I think, again, some very hard conversations at 12:65, but I think ultimately Josh Jacobs gets cut and the Packers move on.
And, you mentioned the June 1st ones, too. And, I mean, maybe something happens in preseason, like a la Ryan Grant, an example of that, where they, that's a possibility, too. And I know we're kind of getting far ahead of ourselves at that point. But,
no doubt.
There's that, and I think that goes to the point. It's May 27th, and there's a lot of time between now and middle of September before we start the season.
Yeah,
to figure that situation out.
Yeah, and I do think it. I think the one part resolves itself very quickly. I don't see this lasting long. I think the Packers cut ways again if there's any suspicion whatsoever, and I feel there is. I feel that these charges are not all going to be just completely dropped and moved into thin air. I think where there's smoke, there's fire. I think he's guilty. To what extent, I don't know. I have no idea about that, but I think he's guilty, and I think Green Bay moves on and looks elsewhere. So, sad story. And it's a sad story, and it's a sad story when you hear this. And it seems to happen a lot with football. And it's that side of the game, that ugly side that we don't like to talk about, and that's the aggressive nature of football. And the fact that a lot of times these men don't know how to control that aggressiveness. And it's just hard. It's hard to see for someone who loves the sport as I do and as you do, and someone who maybe has sons that play the sport and that type of thing like you do and I do. And so it's rough. It's a tough situation, and my heart breaks for a lot of people in this corner. And again, I just think I think he's guilty, and I think Green Bay moves on very quickly.
Switching gears here, I know it's OTAs, and maybe we don't see it as much, but I wanted to throw this question out to you. You're Christian Watson. You're advising Christian Watson.
Oh, I was going to say, if I'm Christian Watson, man, I probably would not be sitting here with you today.
Right. You're advising Christian Watson.
Yes.
Do you have him show up to OTAs and training camp without a contract? Without a new contract?
100%. In this situation. Because I think Green Bay has done good by him. I do. I think Christian Watson has all the talent and ability in the world. And I think the game changes when he's in the lineup. I think the Packers have shown good faith in him. And I think he returns the favor. I don't think... I know it can happen to anyone. I don't think the risk of injury in OTAs is that large. And again, don't get me wrong. You hear it all the time. A non-contact drill, all of a sudden a knee or an Achilles or something. But I would, if I were Christian Watson, I would, because I think Green Bay and I think Gutekunst has said, all along that Tucker Kraft, Christian Watson, and Devontae Wyatt are in line for a raise.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. So I think going to that point, if you will, I think if I'm Christian Watson's camp, I'm yep, okay, you guys have done good by me, and I get it. He's got X amount of years to earn X amount of dollars. I understand that side of it. And maybe I would be thinking differently if I was in his camp and realizing that, look, if he gets hurt, I'm losing a lot of money. Mm-hmm. But I would do it. I would, and maybe he doesn't participate in everything. I don't know, but I definitely would show up. I think that says a lot to Green Bay in this franchise.
That's a good point, too, where you say where Green Bay did him right, because you're right. I mean, they didn't have to give him a one-year extension while he was still recovering from a knee injury.
Right.
And it kind of maybe surprised some people at the time. But, yeah, I think that's a really good point, and I don't know if that would factor into it, because I know there are some people saying that, Watson shouldn't report and until he gets a deal. I understand that side, but I think
I get that side.
Point, too.
Yeah.
Is that, okay, they did right by me, or they did this when they didn't have to. Yeah, I'm going to be a leader, and I'm going to show my dedication and show up that way. Well, and that'll earn bonus points, I would think, from the negotiation table too.
Right? Well, and I think also you just said it. Who's the leader in the locker room? You've got a bad situation right now.
Yeah.
So Christian Watson not showing up makes it worse. Mm-hmm. Christian Watson showing up and being a leader. Now you're saying, okay, the locker room presence or the perceived locker room presence of Josh Jacobs going away potentially could be replaced by someone else. Mm-hmm. And you say to yourself, okay, who could that someone else be? And could it be a Christian Watson? And when you look at that wide receiver room, I believe he's the elder statesman.
Yeah.
And so, now you're saying, okay, this guy's going to be a leader. He's not only speaking as a leader, his actions show that as well. So, yeah, given the situation, I think it's even more critical for this team to bond together and really unify, if they will. And it's one of those things where you say, all right, prove your mettle right now. And again, during adversities when you find true colors. And I think this team is going to go through some adversity because of this Josh Jacobs situation. And if Christian Watson shows that says a lot to me. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I would tell him 100% to show up.
Last question, and kind of related to that, too, with the Josh Jacobs situation. Is this a big moment for Jordan Love to take that step in that leadership role on this team?
Yeah, no question. Mm-hmm. Everyone talks about Aaron Rodgers' leadership style. Mm-hmm. Everyone talks about Brett Favre's leadership style. Very, very different. Rodgers was visibly upset with people if they weren't doing their jobs, and also vocally. Yep. And Favre a little less that, but Favre was obviously a guy that they rallied around. I think Jordan Love needs to be more vocal now. I think he really does need to say, "This is my football team," and jump on my back. Let's go. Mm-hmm. I always go back to, and it's the scene in Draft Day when Sonny Weaver Jr. talks about Joe Montana seeing John Candy in the stands. And it was that last drive before the John Taylor touchdown. That's the kind of thing you need. And whether right now guys are shocked and hurt and Jordan Love needs to be there to pick them up, if guys are slacking because their focus isn't there, Jordan Love needs to get on them. So 100%, this now needs to become Jordan Love's team, and his leadership needs to be vocal, it needs to be on the field, and it needs to be evident.
Because we've always heard the last couple of years a lot, whether it's LaFleur or his teammates, the one thing they say about Love is his nothing really rattles him.
Calm demeanor. Yep.
And in a situation like this, I think that's where that's really got to, kind of rise to the occasion, if you will.
Yeah. Look, you don't have to be a you-rah-rah guy, especially if you can't back it up on the field.
Right.
But Jordan Love can back it up on the field. So I think it's, if a receiver runs a wrong route right now, and Jordan Love needs to let him know that. Mm-hmm. And, Jordan Love needs to have these conversations with some of these younger backs, these undrafted free agents that they have that might have to tote the rock this fall.
Yeah.
And so, I think he needs to step up, and I think there's some other guys in that locker room that will need to as well. And again, going back to it, my prediction is I think they move on from Josh Jacobs very quickly. And I think one way or another, Brian Gutekunst takes care of the position. Not ideal, but I think he makes probably a couple of moves to see what they've got and then go into training camp with that.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thanks for the time, Joe.
It sucks, man.
Yeah. Didn't expect to be talking about this, but,
It is what it is.
It is.
And it happens a little bit too much today in society.
I would agree. All right. Thank you, sir. We're going to take a quick break. Plenty more to get to, though, coming up after these quick words.